Hello there. This is the session on finance and investment and what every entrepreneur should know. I'm covering today uh, the basics of finance and investment. We'll not go into every detail because that itself can become a full-time degree all the way to a full-time career for you. So that's not our intent. Our intent is to know as founders or as entrepreneurs the key aspects of finance and investment. All slides are from my good friend and colleague Darshan Rathod, who is a Thai Pune charter member and is founder CEO on Acumen Merge and Acquisition Advisors. So this is our table of content slide. So we will be covering the finance investment. I'm not necessarily going in the same sequence that is out there, but we will cover majority of it. The idea is to give you a breadth first view. In some cases, at least you should be familiar with the terms, and they should not come to you as a surprise. Should you be in front of investors or in front of even your chartered accountant who is, agreed to act for you as a temporary CFO until you build your full-time finance team led by a CFO. So whole idea is to give you a good flavor of all of this. If you want to really understand to the depth of it, you'll have to go and read yourself or take another advanced course which goes into details. Let us take 3 or 4 areas. One is the basics of financial statements, which is first is to understand what these statements are, and then look at income statement, balance sheet, cash flow. These are the 3 main things, and what they mean is important. And we'll take some simple examples. My idea is not to go into complex details that will sort of stray you away from understanding the core. We will also go into financial analysis, a little bit on some of the things that we need to understand, and then business modeling, which goes to what are the things that are necessary for fundraise, evaluation of how startups are evaluated, how to build a basic business model, etc. Now, if you really see, why you need to understand finance, and it is important. First thing is anything that you do in terms of financial transaction may be subject to a statutory compliance. Simple thing like tax payment, that if you do something and if there is a tax that is liable in terms of either you paying or you collecting, like GST, it is important that you are in compliance and you need some expert help to make sure that that happens. Second thing is that you need to understand the management information system from a finance perspective. So what has been spent, what is the income, how much we were paid by our investors, what kind of equipment we have bought, and what stage are we, what is our expense for our regular stuff independent of our revenue and stuff like that. And I'll use income and revenue in an interchangeable manner. So you just want to be familiar with that, stuff like that. And if you're going for investment, second round, third round, all the way to initial public offering, so-called the IPO, you need to understand the finance statements. So recapping statutory obligations, internal, decision making, reporting to shareholders, people who own the company, or their representatives like board of directors, bankers, and stuff like that. And also making sure that the key stakeholders understand and compare results. They equip with the tools to understand and compare results. That's important. The chart of account, I want you to basically know that you don't need to understand the entire theory behind all of this, but few simple things. For example, when you make an account entry, minimally it has 2 entries. So for example, if you buy an asset, there is an asset acquisition and there is a entry into cash flow, stuff like that. So every transaction will affect two accounts, which will always tally. Very important. For example, a debit of 100 will always have a credit of 100. That means when there is a money going out, somebody else is getting the money. So that debit entry always is matched by the credit entry. Income and liabilities will get hit on the credit side, expenses and assets get hit on the debit side. So all of this happens. So you don't need to understand the intricacies of it, but just be familiar that these kind of things exist. There are directors' reports, audit reports, income, expenses, liabilities, and assets, as is shown in the first blob, is very important. And also the P&L and balance sheet. What is a balance sheet? What is an income statement? What is a cash flow statement? All of this is very important. And the accrual basis for accounting, we may or may not cover it, but at some stage you want to understand how these things are done. And I'll probably give some very simple examples to during the course of this presentation. First is the balance sheet, and the balance sheet basically is value and ownership. Who owns the business is reflected from the balance sheet. Okay. Then there is an income statement. Income statement typically tells you what is the income that you are getting from selling your products and services. For example, you sell a set of equipment, or you also sell services. So customers pay you for the equipment, and they also pay you possibly for the services that you offer. Now all of this comes under income. There may be some non-operating revenue which is not coming from your goods and services. Then there would be expenses, and expenses are direct expenses which are directly tied to your product or services that you're selling. For example, the cost of the goods is direct equipment expense. People that you have deployed, resources that you have deployed to provide the service, to deliver the service, you can call it, in the accounting jargon, you would call it as the direct labor. But then you have things like office rental, internet bandwidth, salary of your administrative staff. These are all, not directly connected to that particular equipment. It may be overall on the company, and they are sometimes can be indirect expense. And then you have, at a very broad level, what you've got from your goods and services sale to what you've spent. The difference is your profit. Now you can see that there are multiple ways, multiple types of profit, and it gets a little complicated, but we'll go into each one of these as we go along. Okay? As against the income statement, which is basically performance of your business, balance sheet is typically ownership of your business. Equity capital, as it says here, is the money that shareholders have put into the business to begin with. Now these may be common shares, it could be preference shares, but don't worry about it right now. Assume that there are different types of shares, and they all come as your share capital. You may have some long-term borrowing that you have done. Somebody has given you a 10-15-year loan and some conditions, so that becomes your net worth. So you have that. You also have liabilities, means something that you owe back, like trade payables, you owe back. And then that way you get the total of your reserves, which is your share capital, and total of your liabilities, that's something that you owe back to somebody else, and that's your total liabilities. Now, fixed assets could be tangible, like you bought a building, you bought an equipment, versus intangible fixed assets. They could be there. You could have non-current assets, that is And then trade receivables, the money that your customers owe you one-on-one ways. You may have some inventory sitting. That means this is the inventory that you have for which you paid money. You would also have money in the bank, short-term, long-term, and some other current assets. So when you do the assets and liabilities, because of the double entry, it always balances. Just remember that assets and liabilities always balance, as in this case, the assets and assets and liabilities are 120 and 120. Cash flow statement, that means how much cash did you get for a particular period of time, how much cash did you spend, and how much cash did you start with, and how much of cash that you're left with. So cash flow from operations, cash flow from building the business, cash flow from financing the business, capitalizing business, all of this is covered under cash flow statement. And it is important to understand cash flow from all angles, because cash is the king in most businesses, and understanding how your cash is flowing and how much cash you have, how much cash you have access to, and what are your cash outflow. Understanding all of this, where you can raise some money, short-term, long-term debt, is also very, very important that you need to understand. Let us say this business, revenue from operation, there is none. So maybe it's a startup company. There is no revenue from operation. There is an employee expense, and there are some other expenses. So you have a loss of 12.3 million is the loss here of Indian rupees. There is no equipment, so there is no depreciation, and there is no tax expense. So total loss is 12.3 million. Now this will not get transferred to liabilities, it will get transferred to your assets. Since it's negative, it will reduce your from the share capital, whatever somebody has put in, it goes as a negative item over there, as it's shown in this case. That net worth was minus 12.2, trade payables was 14.1, and after this transaction, the current liabilities are 14.4, and total equity and liabilities about 2.2. So it's important to understand how do you treat losses. Okay. Let's go to some amount of financial analysis and decision making. Okay, so let's see the income flow progresses. You make a sale from where you get money. Now, in order to sell your goods and services, there is a cost associated with it of resources that you need to make that sale. For example, equipment, manpower, all of this. So you take that as cost of sales. So I have sold an equipment worth X rupees, and in order to get that equipment, in order to service the delivery of that equipment to the customer, I have spent some money, and that comes as a cost of sales. So income or sale minus direct cost, which is your cost of sales, is your gross profit. That's your first measure of profitability. So if you had no indirect expense, that will be your money in the bank income. Now you have operating expenses, as we talked about just now. So you have to reduce that. Now what you get is this mouthful, what's called as EBITDA. Earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization. It's a handful or a mouthful, but remember that EBITDA is very, very frequently used, and therefore you must get familiar with EBITDA. So this is your earnings before interest. You have taken care of your interest cost, your tax liabilities, your depreciation amount, and if something that an expense you're amortizing over a period of time, so that amortization amount also comes in. So you take this out, take the non-operating income, and expenses, take the depreciation out, take the amortization out. Now, when you take these extraordinary things around your income, then what you're left with is earnings from the business including tax in interest and tax. Now you take the interest out of it, and interest is because you borrowed some money and there is an interest on that, so you take that out, then you're left with earnings before tax, and that becomes your, and you take the tax out of it, and that's your net income or net profit. That's the money in the bank, hopefully, for your company once you take all of this out. Now, where is the cash here? It's very important to understand where is the cash. Now, cash flow summarizes movement of the cash. Cash flow from various activities added gives the net change in the cash equivalent. Negative cash flow from operations and other indicative expenses of a company it indicates a poor performance, because that's what it is all about. That's your overall cash flow statement. Operating cash flow, cash generated by company's normal business operations. Net income adjusted to on a cash basis using the changes in the non-cash items like depreciation. Depreciation is a non-cash item, as well as working capital. Then you have financing cash flow that is brought in, equity, loans, etc., is used to build or fund the company and build the business. Now you have to give some reports to those people, that is capitalization. And then investing cash flows, cash generated or spent on various investment related activities for a specific period of time. You have extra cash, you made good profit and you have extra cash, and you need to make sure that gets invested. That's investment cash flow. When you say something can be capitalized, what is a capital equipment? Let's say you bought a scanner or a 3D printer for your company. Now you bought it for, let's say, 5 lakh rupees. And you feel the utilization of that equipment is over 5 years. So, and you're using a straight line depreciation. So you will depreciate every year 1 lakh. So though you may have spent 5 lakh, in your income statement, you will only show 1 lakh, which is the depreciation associated with that 3D printer. So 3D printer was a good example of something that is a capital equipment, and everybody felt that was the right analogy I'm making. But it can get complicated, and so we need to understand what can be capitalized and what cannot be capitalized, because this kind of capitalization is not a route to showing profitability. And the reason for that is, if your income were, let's say, 20 and you spent on the 3D printer 10, and you got 20 rupees from, say 20 lakhs from the customers, and you spent 10 lakhs on the 3D printer, effectively you are left with 10 lakhs of cash. But your P&L will not show 10 lakhs. P&L will show, let's say, the printer depreciates over 5-year period 2 lakhs at a time. It will show 20 lakhs as an income, and it will show, among other expenses, the expense related to the 3D printer will be 2 lakh this year. So, there is so much of, so the 2 lakh is actually the depreciation, and you will charge 2 lakhs to your income statement every year. So over a period of 5 years, you will have depreciated the laser printer to 0. Now, what is the benefit of it? Because you have set aside 2 rupees every year, 2 lakh rupees every year, if I'm using the right value here, or right unit of value, then at the end of 5 years, you would have in your bank 10 lakh rupees to go and buy another 3D printer. So these are important things. But can you capitalize everything? No. And there are, sometimes people can get very cheeky here, and it can reflect improper financial state of the company. So let us see what is it that you can capitalize. Equipment you can definitely capitalize. Any equipment that is an asset can be capitalized. If you are building software development, any development expenses only after technical and commercial feasibility. If you are building a asset and for which there are development expenses needed, then that can be capitalized after it has been proven that the the feasibility, the technical and the commercial feasibility exists, and therefore it can be capitalized. Goodwill arising on business. So if there is a goodwill payment, that can be capitalized. Purchase computer software, patents, trademark. If you buy a particular patent, that can be capitalized over a period of time. And different regulatory regimes around the world for different types of capitalization will mandate certain time period within which you can capitalize that expense or that capital purchase. Very often companies take a conservative approach, and for example, if you have developed software and the resources have been spent and you want to capitalize that or you want to write it off as a operating expenses, many companies prefer to take care of it in the expense rather than capitalize it. It makes life that much easier and simple. But be aware that these kind of concepts exist, and so these can be capitalized. Development expenses, goodwill on business, purchase software product, and anything that's acquired through lease or government grant can also be capitalized. What you cannot capitalize, deferred revenue expenditure, you cannot capitalize this. Startup costs cannot be capitalized. Self-generating goodwill, trademark, patents and all that cannot be capitalized. If you can be conservative on what can be capitalized, you will reflect a healthier or a truly accurate state of the business from a cash and capital standpoint. Let's look at the ratio analysis. Now, I'll sort of, while we are doing it, we will talk about, different ratios. Net profit and we will see it, if you look at the left side, DuPont analysis. It talks about three major financial metrics: operating efficiency, asset use efficiency, and financial leverage. So let's see what the net profit margin basically means. Net profit to net sales, that ratio is NP margin. Asset turnover, you have certain assets and you have some sales. So those assets have generated that much of sales or that much of income. That ratio is asset turnover. Equity multiplier, you have total equity, you had total assets, and that went into your company's ownership, and that's what the company owns right now. But equity is the value of the company. So that ratio, asset versus equity, is called the multiplier of equity. Degree of financial leverage, you take your interest out of your earnings and you do EBIT versus EBT, that is your financial leverage. Operational leverage, and I'm just going in a reverse here, your contribution to your interest before earnings and tax. So you may not need all of this, but just be aware, and sometimes it's a good idea to look at net profit margin, asset turnover, and equity multiplier, at least to understand how the business is doing from shareholders' viewpoint. Because shareholders want the business to be good, profitable, and also their equity or their investment to multiply or give them a decent return on their investment. So very, very important for the founders to understand what that dynamics is and strive to get there in your operations, in your running of the company. Many times founders feel that this is a nuisance and unnecessary hindrance. It is not. It is all about creating robust businesses that will survive the test of the time. Current ratio is your current assets to current liabilities. Receivables is receivable days means when customer pays you, they take certain days to pay you. So you say we'll pay you in 30 days, 45 days and stuff like that. Now trade receivable, the amount of money customers owe you, that's trade receivable. And average revenue per day, how much you're generating, that's your average revenue per day. When you take this ratio, it's called receivable days. Similarly, inventory turnover ratio is cost of goods sold to average inventory. That's the inventory turnover. So important to understand, I would say focus on receivable days in the beginning, and it also is an indicator of if your payments are late, people are not paying you on time or they're delaying. You've made a sale, but you've not got money. No point having a business where you've delivered the goods or services, but you've not got paid for it. So it's important not only to get paid for it, but also make sure that you get paid on time and you have negotiated your payment terms in such a way that that money is coming to you in a decent amount of time, because money not in your bank is a loss of resources and also your ability to maneuver those resources, and possibly some income you could generate by putting that money into fixed deposits, into working into liquid, or into anything that will generate more. So let's say you have about 1 crore sitting in your bank which you don't need for next 2 months. Why would you want to keep it in the bank with the lowest interest? You want to invest somewhere from where that money can generate some more money. And it's very important to understand some of these dynamics in order to build business. I'll give you an example. In the first year when I took over as Tech Mahindra CEO, there was no focus on managing the money. Not that people were bad, but they just not put their focus on. So the company in the first year, in the first 9 months, I think if I recall the numbers correctly, we went from sales of 32 crore to sales of 60 crores. But our profit went up 12 times because the nature of the business moved from on-site programming services to offshore project, which are a lot more profitable. So the profit went up 12 times. But while our sale was about 60 crores, we had another 3 crores of income from two things. One is interest on the money that we had in the bank, and managing our foreign exchange transactions very well. And most of that income was from United Kingdom, from British Telecom, BT. So we used to get in UK pound, and we were observing how the pound was moving, and we managed it so well. Then nearly 5% of top line overall income, income from non-operating sources was about 5%, and all of that was to the bottom line. That gave us additional resources to invest in growing the business. So these are very, very important aspects that founders must know, or at least have some people who can manage that for you. And I'll not go into debt versus equity ratio, interest coverage, that is your EBITDA versus interest expense. You earn certain money and you have so much of an interest expense. That ratio, if you almost, your interest is as much as your gross profit, you're not making any money, stuff like that. Return on equity is very important. Your income and shareholders have put some money in, and what is their return on their equity is very, very important. Return on capital will make sure that investors come to you and invest in your business if these ratios are healthy. We will stop here for now.